Hi, Chris Duff over at Serious Land Capital, vacant land funding partner. Quick one today. I just wanted to share kind of a quicker tip regarding how you can set up or basically set up a double close situation, even in situations where you're not able to get a, novation contract or the option to market a property on behalf of a seller in order to set up a double close or transactional deal. So in certain situations when, we're already looking at funding a deal, I mean, we always try to do this whenever possible. It's just not, it doesn't always work out in such a way where there's definitely already perceived opportunity to invest from an equity perspective. And, we were looking at this property in South Carolina at like a 26K buy, pretty small deal, at least for us, but seemed like should be a double pretty conservatively. It was pretty far out rural wise. Like I didn't feel the best about it, but, local broker visited a few times, had other connections within his brokerage, seemed to indicate, yeah, there's probably going to be activity out here and could list closer to 70K. So you have a lot of room to work with from an exit potential and margin perspective. But we hadn't closed on the deal yet because we're always looking to identify a realtor and get boots on the ground prior to any purchase. Like that's a requirement. We don't fund any deals without a site visit and getting, local expert opinion. It's just a key piece of us being able to operate nationally without ever having to, go visit these properties and being able to quickly enter new markets and still feel confident about purchases that we're pursuing. And so, while we're waiting, for a pretty slow attorney to sort out title commitment, but the rest of our diligence was done, we've just been in touch with the broker and seeing, okay, can you do any soft outreach? He was mentioning that, yeah, I think I might have some people that were looking for land like this, already chatting with other members of his brokerage or, kind of associated brokers in the area and seeing, okay, what might we be able to put together here? And within a couple of days of him starting to do some outreach, had already gotten an offer. He was already soft selling, hey, like the 69K as a list price. They wanted to make a bid for 60K, and this was conventional finance, so effectively a cash deal for us. Pending appraisal and pre-approval, which was no problem. And we were able to settle in at 65K. I went back to the realtor and said, this is already like a solid deal here, especially we can basically make it a double close situation with equity economics on the deal. Nothing's guaranteed, right? Things can fall through, especially when it comes to conventional financing, but seems pretty good. So just tell like these possible buyers who seem pretty hot on the deal, if they get up to say, okay, we'll sign it. And that came back really quickly. Figured that would likely work out there. And so, you kind of have to thread the needle from a timing side because a lot of these buyers, like they're not that sophisticated. They're not going to like dive super deep. Okay, who is this seller and everything? And the broker, is also being strategic in terms of, what level of info he's providing to these buyers. So, he's not saying, hey, these guys, don't own it yet. They're still in title and anticipating purchasing, within the next couple of weeks. So our timing, like we're pretty much, all set to close outside of getting the attorney to prep that title commitment and then set up a closing with the seller. And so he was just mentioning to these prospective buyers, hey, these guys they're out of state. They're just working through some paperwork with the attorney so we can, start to get the closing process set up. So, it's just a bit more strategic, like nothing untoward here because, we're dead set on purchasing this property. Obviously, if there was some crazy title issue that comes up, that indicates that the title's not clean, we don't expect it to be this in this case, then we can always back out, and that's also good. We figure that out before any possible buyer might look at the property anyway. So it's just kind of arranging the order of operations in terms of how the information is handled in such a case. But that gives us a lot more confidence that, okay, we're buying this at the right price. Let's close on it, and then let's anticipate selling that, right away to this buyer. So like as soon as we close, we get the listing agreement with the broker, and then they prep offer, and they can actually prep an offer prior to us fully owning it. That paperwork is fine to do anyway. So that's just an additional strategy. It doesn't work every time, because it's not like, some brokers are just like getting people out of the woodwork to, off market to come take a stab at a property here. But when you can figure it out, it is an excellent opportunity to pursue. And so this can be useful for, times where, hey, you're not confident you can get the seller under a, again, novation or option contract. They're not comfortable with that. You still think the economics are good enough for equity. But it still allows you to set up basically double close. It's still riskier, right? Because you have to take title prior and then go through, the whole process. Even if it's still holding for like another 30, 45 days, there's still more inherent risk to that versus like a same day or, 1 or 2 business day close timeline that would be more typical for a double close. So there's still more inherent risk there, or maybe the possible buyer they just back out for whatever reason, or the financing falls apart again. Especially in this economy, you just never know. So there is still more risk there, again, from an equity perspective, but very, very handy type of strategy to use whenever possible. So we're always asking brokers, hey, do you have any other type of off-market list? Who are people you might be able to reach out to, and so forth. Start pre-marketing the deal. I'd say more than half the time, brokers that we reach out to or work with tend to have that. And again, success rate it's a mixed bag, right? It's not always going to work, but in this case, it does. And I mentioned this again too to at least share a little bit more optimism. Again, a wild macro economy that we're in. Again, we're in a pretty risk-off position at the moment, being much, much more careful of deals that we're pursuing, but there is still market movement. The whole entire economy hasn't shut down. Just be cautious. Use more, de-risking type dispo strategies in combination with your acquisition, especially in more difficult markets like this. So hopefully this is helpful. If you're looking for funding, again, Serious Land Capital, and then Land Daily Diligence Facebook group for zero cost review of your land deals. And remember, on April 17th, next Thursday at 1:30 p.m. Central, myself, Dave Deniston, and Justin Sleva will be hosting a UnConference style hot seat session. 2 people will be selected for hot seats, and again, you can volunteer yourself to do so. At the moment, those 2 slots are still open, but starting to push advertising a lot more. I'm certain that they will be filled in a very short period of time. So if you're at all interested in getting expert level coaching and understanding what UnConference hot seat sessions are all about, and maybe consider joining for the live event in August this year in Minneapolis, I would love to have you. Again, this is zero cost. It's just in service of the wider land industry. Hope you consider that, and can take your business to the next level, which I think we all need when we're dealing with possible imminent recession, right? Like every strategy, every advantage you can get counts. And at landpricer.ai, the most simple and accurate way to price land. I'm going to be updating my community on key development pushes there, solidifying bringing on a CTO for Land Pricer that will definitely help us take the development to the next level in a more consistent manner. Better strategy going forward here. Very, very excited for where we're heading with this product. Actually reached out to OpenAI for possible startup partnership there. It's going to be a very popular program. We'll see if they respond here, but that could be very, very cool. I'll let you guys know if anything happens there. But you never know unless you try to try making some outreaches. Okay, with that, subscribe and share. All my best. Talk to you tomorrow. Take care. Bye.